Sadhana, a book suggested as a way to God, containing said Christian exercises in Eastern form, by Jesuit Anthony De Mello, S.J. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth and have found what might be, to some, a helpful step-by-step book full of suggested steps, i.e. awareness and contemplation, fantasy, devotion and more, via a book that we found in the public domain, public access. No copyright infringement or breach was intentional, and we bring this particular book to all via this video review for educational purposes only. We will look deeper into this book in a moment. It is called Sadhana, a Way to God, capital G, with suggested Christian exercises in Eastern form, by Anthony De Mello. We have found further information on Anthony De Mello on 2 websites, who happens to be a Jesuit, according to one of these websites that we found. Our first reads Anthony De Mello, Jesuit priest. Anthony Tony De Mello, 4 September 1931 to 2nd June 1987, was an Indian Jesuit priest and psychotherapist. The Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuit Order, or the Jesuits, is a religious order of clerics, regular of pontifical right for men in the Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome. It was founded in 1540 by Ignatius of Loyola and 6 companions, possibly with the approval of the Roman Catholic Church. He was a psychotherapist, a spiritual teacher, writer and public speaker. De Mello wrote several books on spirituality and hosted numerous spiritual retreats. It's like places where you go and you do yoga, Zen, Buddhist practices and so forth. Perhaps have a spa, get a massage, something like that. Those are variants. And conferences. He continued to be known for his storytelling. To this day he continues to be known for his storytelling also, which draws from the various mystical traditions of both East and West. Mysticism is popularly known as becoming one with God or the Absolute, but may refer to any kind of ecstasy or altered state of consciousness which is given a religious or spiritual meaning, like transcendental meditation, etc. It may also refer to the attainment of insights in ultimate or hidden truths. So we suggest use your own discretion in regards to this book that we are reviewing. He was born one of 5 children to Frank and Louisa Castellino De Mello. He was born in Bombay, British India on 4 September 1931. He was raised in a Catholic family and dreamed of one day joining the Jesuit order. At the age of 16, De Mello entered the Society of Jesus, another name for the Friends of Jesus or the Jesuits. The Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuit Order or the Jesuits, at the seminary of Vinalaya on the outskirts of Bombay. In 1952, he was sent to Spain to study philosophy in Barcelona, before undertaking ministry. He then returned to India to study theology at De Nobili College in Pune and was ordained to the priesthood in March 1961. After his return to India, he spent several years working in seminaries, and in 1968 he was made rector of the seminary of Vinalaya. De Mello was first attracted to the Jesuits for their strict discipline. Those who knew him during his earlier years in the order described him as somewhat conservative in his theology and reluctant to explore other religions. Some of his peers noted that his experience in Spain led him to broaden his perspective and to lose much of his rigidity. Work. In 1972 he founded the Institute of Pastoral Counselling, later renamed the Sadhana Institute of Pastoral Counselling in Pune, India. Demello first published book Sadhana, A Way to God, was released in 1978. It outlined a number of spiritual principles and Christian exercises in Eastern form, inspired by the teaching of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, venerated as Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who was a Spanish Basque Catholic priest and theologian who, with 6 companions, founded the religious order of the Society of Jesus, or Jesuits, and became its first superior general in Paris in 1541. It outlined a number of spiritual principles. We read that. It popularized various mindfulness and contemplative practices in the United States for its readers and for those who attended his lectures. Death. He died of a heart attack in 1987, aged 55, in New York City. Bill De Mello, a brother of Tony's, recounts in his book Anthony De Mello, The Happy Wanderer, that Tony's body was found by Friar Frank Stroud, S.J. According to Francis Stroud, De Mello's body was curled up in a fetal position. His official death certificate lists the immediate cause of his death as atherosclerotic coronary artery disease with recent thrombosis of left circumflex branch. Those in the medical professions will know what that is. Posthumous controversy. In 1998, 11 years after De Mello's death, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, CDF, a department of the Roman Curia in charge of the religious discipline of the Catholic Church. The dicastery is the oldest among departments of the Roman Curia. Its seat is in the Palace of the Holy Office. Under the leadership of its Cardinal Prefect, Joseph Ratzinger, Pope Benedict XVI, head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State from 19 April 2005 until his resignation on 28 February 2013. Benedict's election as Pope occurred in the 2005 papal conclave that followed the death of Pope John Paul II. Okay, so Joseph Ratzinger, who later became Pope Benedict XVI, conducted a review of De Mello's work and released a comment stating that while his works, which almost always take the form of brief stories, contain some valid elements of Oriental wisdom, which can be helpful in achieving self-mastery, in breaking the bonds of feelings that keep us from being free, and in approaching with serenity the various vicissitudes of life, some of De Mello's views, expressed particularly in his later work, are incompatible with the Catholic faith, the Roman Catholic faith, and can cause grave harm. Yeah, don't do or undertake anything that causes self-harm. Okay, we don't recommend it, or grave harm to yourself. In particular, the CDF wrote that while, especially in his early writings, Father De Mello, while revealing the influence of Buddhist and Taoist spiritual currents, remained within the lines of Christian spirituality. They understood De Mello's view of Jesus as a master alongside others, objected to the idea that the question of destiny after death is declared to be irrelevant. Only the present life should be of interest, and expressed further concern that the author's statements on the final destiny of man give rise to perplexity. The Indian magazine Outlook saw this as an attempt by Rome to undermine the clergy in Asia amid widening fissures between Rome and the Asian Church. De Mello's books are available in many Catholic bookshops in the West, but sometimes include an advisory that they were written in a multi-religious context and are not intended to be manuals on Christian doctrine. Bibliography. A number of De Mello's works were published posthumously as collections or based on notes or recordings of his conferences, and these are listed below. And then these references, further reading, other online resources, and multimedia. Anthony De Mello, SJ, 1931 to 1987, from ignatianspirituality.com, a service of Loyola Press. Indian-born Anthony De Mello was a psychotherapist and priest who became widely known for his popular speaking and best-selling books on spirituality. Influential first amongst Indian Jesuits and other religious, De Mello became well known in the United States by the mid-1970s. He was often invited to present retreats and workshops in America and used often hilarious stories and examples. De Mello was a speaker and wisdom teacher, but much of what he shared has been reconstructed from the notes of those attending his talks or his lectures. Sadhana, A Way to God, is his best known work, although The Song of the Bird and Wellsprings have also proven popular. De Mello melded his psychotherapist training with Eastern and Western spiritualities. He wanted people to awaken and become more fully aware of the reality around them. De Mello died suddenly in 1987. In 1998, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith issued a notification regarding his writings. Despite this, De Mello's popularity continues, possibly to this day, and his books are still widely sought. We are going to go to an AI. We asked the Christians, what did it recommend about this book, the pros and the cons? Give us a review. What are the pros and cons if it being a mixture of Hindu or Eastern philosophy methods and Christian methods, etc.? What could be the benefits? What could be the consequences of doing that? Because many Christians would say, oh, you can't do that, you can't use that, that's of the devil, or this stuff. Okay, you're in charge of your own salvation, work out your own salvation. That's what Christ said, or Paul said, somebody like that in the Bible. Okay, so it's a personal relationship between you and God. Okay, so you are answerable to God. No one else will answer to God for you on your behalf except the Christ. Okay, He'll be there with you, seated possibly when you stand before God, either receive condemnation for doing such, judgment, etc., paying the consequences, or not. Depends what steps you use, etc., etc. So he asked this AI to give us a review, the pros and cons, etc. And it replied saying, Sadhana, A Way to God by Anthony De Mello is a profound exploration of spiritual exercises that integrate Christian spirituality with Eastern forms of meditation and contemplation. Here's a detailed review, critique, pros and cons, and recommendations for the book. Review. Overview. Anthony De Mello, a Jesuit priest and psychotherapist, presents a series of spiritual exercises inspired by both Ignatian spirituality and Eastern traditions such as Zen and yoga. The book offers a unique blend of Christian mysticism and Eastern philosophy aimed at deepening the reader's spiritual life. Content. Each chapter introduces a different spiritual practice or exercise, such as mindfulness, meditation and self-awareness techniques. De Mello uses anecdotes, parables and practical instructions to guide readers through these exercises, encouraging a direct experience of the divine. Writing style. De Mello's writing is clear, insightful and often provocative. He challenges conventional religious perspectives and invites readers to explore spirituality beyond dogma and doctrine. Critique. Syncretism concerns. Some critics argue that De Mello's blending of Christian and Eastern spiritual practices may dilute or distort the distinctiveness of each tradition. Traditionalists within both Christian and Eastern religious communities might find his approach controversial or unorthodox. Depth versus breadth. While the book covers a wide range of spiritual exercises, some readers may find that it sacrifices depth for breadth. Those seeking a comprehensive guide to either Christian or Eastern spiritual practices might feel that the book only scratches the surface of each tradition. Pros. Innovative approach. 1. Innovative approach. Demello's integration of Eastern and Western spiritualities offers a fresh perspective or contemplative practice, appealing to readers interested in cross-cultural spirituality. 2. Accessible language. The book is written in a conversational tone, making complex spiritual concepts accessible to a broad audience regardless of religious background. 3. Practical exercises. Each chapter includes practical exercises that readers can apply in their daily lives, promoting spiritual growth and self-awareness. Cons. 1. Controversial interpretations. Some readers may find Demello's interpretations of Christian theology and Eastern philosophy contentious or at odds with their own beliefs. 2. Lack of depth. The book's brevity and wide scope might leave some readers wanting more detailed explanations or deeper explorations of specific practices. Recommendations. For whom? Sadhana, A Way to God, is recommended for readers who are open-minded and curious about exploring spirituality beyond traditional boundaries. It is ideal for those interested in practical spiritual exercises and personal growth rather than theological debates. Further reading. Readers interested in a deeper understanding of Christian mysticism could explore the works of Thomas Merton or Teresa of Avila. For a more thorough exploration of Eastern spiritual practices, books by Thich Nhat Hanh or the classic texts of Hindu and Buddhist traditionists are recommended. In conclusion, Sadhana, A Way to God by Anthony De Mello is a thought-provoking book that challenges readers to engage with spirituality in a new light. While it may not satisfy everyone's theological or philosophical preferences, its practical exercises and cross-cultural insights make it a valuable read for those seeking a more expansive spiritual journey. Pros. 1. Integration of spiritual practices. The blending of Christian and Eastern spiritual exercises can provide a richer, more diverse spiritual practice. It allows practitioners to benefit from both contemplative traditions, enhancing personal growth and spiritual depth. 2. Universal spiritual insights. By incorporating elements from Hinduism and other Eastern philosophies, practitioners may gain broader perspectives or outlooks or opinions or views, seeing it from a different angle. Because remember, a coin has two sides to it, doesn't it? It allows practitioners to benefit from both contemplative traditions, enhancing personal growth and spiritual depth. It gives you greater understanding, if you look at it that way, rather than point a pointing finger and judge when you don't know nothing about it. 2. Universal spiritual insights. By incorporating elements from Hinduism and other Eastern philosophies, practitioners may gain broader perspectives on universal spiritual truths such as mindfulness, compassion and inner peace. Love for all other people, because remember, at the end of the day, they are human beings. Despite their race, their colour, their creed, their sex, their sexual preferences, etc. Well, you're not going to promote, if you're a Christian, you're not going to promote their perversions and lust, are you? But just take into consideration, at the end of the day, they're still human beings. 3. Cultural appreciation. Engaging with Eastern spiritual forms fosters cultural appreciation and understanding, and promoting interfaith dialogue, conversations, etc., and unity among different religious traditions. Cons. 1. Theological compatibility. Some Christians may find the integration of Eastern practices into Christian spirituality problematic due to theological differences. Everyone has their opinions, their perspectives, their views. Many have big egos and so forth. Theirs is the only way, because that's the way we've been taught. Well, Jesus did say, I am the way. So he's basically saying, you got to go through him to get to God. He's the way, he's the path, he's the means. Concepts such as reincarnation, non-duality and karma in Hinduism can conflict with Christian doctrines of sin, redemption and resurrection. Be aware of that. 2. Syncretism concerns. Critics argue that blending Christian and Eastern practice may lead to a superficial or syncretistic approach, diluting the distinctiveness of each tradition and potentially leading to confusion or spiritual disorientation. Well, it's like Bruce Lee and his martial arts. This is an example. That he learnt Tai Chi Chuan from his father, apparently, and he delved in other martial arts, but he found it a classical mess. It was all traditional. They've been doing that way for thousands of years. There's no other way. You couldn't do it any other way. Couldn't add to it, take it away, all that sort of stuff. You couldn't teach it to a non-Chinese or non-Asian, etc. So they had their rules, regulations. But he found it a classical mess. Like, nobody fights that way. Through his fight with Jack Wong Man, is it? Yeah, he was told, he did well, but he said, it took too long. I was out of breath, unfit. So he thought, well, I got to get fitter, got to get better, faster, etc., etc. So I got to read all these books, these philosophy books, fencing, martial arts, etc., etc. And then he basically took away all the classical mess. He said just didn't work. It was a waste of time. 98% of martial arts was BS, he said. And he came up with a more practical street fighting type martial arts. So, because he was in a gang in Hong Kong, and he didn't want to be, without his boys, his little gang, and he gets attacked by several of them and beaten up. He wanted to be able to come out on top, come out the winner. So he absorbed all these philosophies, these martial arts, their techniques, the fencing, physical fitness, weightlifting, all that sort of stuff for his benefit, and it all worked for him. And anything that didn't work, that didn't help him in his betterment, he chucked it away. He put it in the rubbish bin, basically. Yeah. He found it useless, so he got rid of it. Didn't use it. He picked and took from these different methods, strategies, etc., and came up with a near perfect martial arts. Okay? And was basically untouchable. So this is a similar thing that you can do between these Hindu and this Christian mysticism, right? Through these methods. But as we said earlier, be careful where it comes to if you're a Christian, following the scriptures, and here it says, meditation, probably transcendental, all that sort of stuff, Zen, yoga, because yoga in Hinduism is not just doing exercise for health reasons or loosening up or whatever. It's also a religion. So you can't claim that you're a yogi unless you're doing this religion along with these exercises, etc. Okay, so just be careful with these different extra things that the Hindus, the said pagan religion with the pantheon of gods, incorporate as part of this book. Be wary of their claims of reincarnation, perhaps karma, and non-duality, which can conflict with your Christian doctrines or scriptures. Doctrines of sin, redemption, and resurrection. Okay? Those are the theological differences that could cause your spirituality problems, or other people coming at you saying, you can't do that, you can't do this, 3. Orthodox Christian views. Orthodox Christian theologians may view the adaptation of Eastern practices as inappropriate or even heretical, believing that genuine Christian spirituality should remain faithful to its own traditions and teachings. Yeah, a lot of them come at you and say, oh, you're a heretic, what you're doing is hearsay, it's of the devil, that sort of stuff, and yet they're doing similar. They're actually heretical, their church is actually heretical, following heresies, all this sort of stuff. You know, that aren't scriptural, aren't actually biblical. Like saying you must plant a seed, plant a harvest, so give us all your money, or if you love Israel, you can give us all your money, or some other thing that they dreamed up. It's not scriptural.